Morning, everyone. It's Monday, and on Mondays we work on level 1 of the aura. Little self-care practices that I post for you in my Facebook and Instagram feed, and here live on Facebook at 8 a.m. we can practice together or go over it together or catch it later on YouTube, on my YouTube channel. Good morning, it's Shelley Harrison. I'm an energy healer with a specialization in trauma healing, both personal and generational, and looking fabulous as usual at 8 a.m. Just had my coffee, and I have endeavored to wear something blue today with lines to light up our first level of the aura, which is your etheric body. So that's me. I'm the hippie healer who likes to wear tartan because I'm going for a hike after this. So, first level of your aura, if you are new to this, is the one that extends out closest to our body, penetrates into our body, and it's the one that's charging up our physical body. So, what you feel, how you perceive this level of your aura, is through sensations, both pleasurable and painful sensations. So, let us go to today's post. Pulling it up on my phone. Again, easy to find the Monday posts because they always look like this. They're blue and they say etheric body. So there's your wonderful etheric body, blue lines of light zipping all around and through every anatomical feature of your body and your chakras. Yes, your chakras are also outlined, structured, scaffolded in these blue lines of light on this level because your chakras are different on every level of your field. Whoa, mind blowing. So that's why I wear the blue, right? I grabbed it out of my closet. I was like, ooh, let me try to wear something blue this morning that kind of gives the impression of these blue gridwork lines of light zipping around every time you feel a sensation in your body. What did I say today? Today's self-care, a tip if you do yoga. How many yoga practitioners are out there? I used to be a yoga teacher, actually. I taught yoga for 20 years. Interestingly, I became a yoga teacher concurrent with when I started my healing practice. I graduated from the Barbara Brennan School of Healing in 1999, June 1999. Ooh, long time ago now. And that November, I ended up working as a receptionist in a really large yoga studio in Ottawa, Ontario, called Lotus. Some of you in my area remember it. And the owners just thought I had some potential as a yoga teacher and asked me if I wanted to go do a yoga teacher training for Ashtanga yoga, of all things. If you know what Ashtanga yoga is, it's like the power of the power yoga. It's a very vigorous form that's a continuous flow of asanas with really strong poses, like really strong poses for the core. A very powerful practice. And I fell in love with it because, interestingly, I'd sort of put out a prayer to the universe shortly before that I wanted a daily discipline. I wanted to know what my practice was. I wanted something that I would do every day that became like a discipline for me. And I'd already done some yoga. I'd taken a little bit of Sivananda yoga, so I already knew how to do a headstand. But I'm quite an athletic person, and I was 28 at the time, so even more athletic than I am now at 53. And I got sent to this Ashtanga yoga teacher training down in Florida, down in Naples, Florida, with David Swenson. And it was totally wonderful. I found David was wonderful. He was such a character, so funny, such a storyteller. And I totally fell in love with the practice. And I came home and I started doing like an hour and a half of Ashtanga yoga every day and teaching it 3 times a week at the yoga studio. So from there, pardon me, back in the year 2000, yoga was sort of at the edge of its big boom that we've had recently, right? This yoga studio I taught for, Lotus, was the first one in Ottawa, which is a pretty large city in Canada. It was the first one to have multiple studios. And it was the first one to have drop-in classes. and it was the first one to have a hot yoga studio. They had Bikram yoga. So besides teaching my Ashtanga yoga, I was like doing Bikram hot yoga almost all the time. Like I was doing a ton of yoga, and I was teaching all different forms of yoga. I even taught prenatal and postnatal and hot yoga and yin yoga and power yoga and all the yogas. And I did that for 20 years until COVID hit. I owned a small yoga studio myself because I live rurally outside of Ottawa. And I wanted to work closer from home and have my healing practice closer to home. So I opened a small boutique yoga studio. Some of you in my area remember it, called Vraie Nature, which means true nature. And that was open in Chelsea, Quebec from 2012 to 2018. And then I really wanted to just focus on my healing practice. So I sold it in 2018. Thank goodness, because when COVID hit, it had to close. And with COVID and everything going online, I just didn't really enjoy teaching online yoga that much. And I got to a point where I just really wanted to focus only on one thing, just focus on the healing work. So I did teach yoga, a heck of a lot of yoga, sometimes 10 classes a week for 20 years. And then I hung up my yoga mat and I retired. And oddly, I don't even do yoga that much anymore. Just the needs of my body changed, and I actually prefer weightlifting. And today, hiking, anything I can do outdoors is ecstatic for me. So, we're talking about yoga today. So much to say I know what I'm talking about. I've done a lot of yoga. Here's the post. Old school or classical yoga emphasized exertion in a pose and then rest. For example, the original hot yoga, Bikram yoga, wondering if you've ever done Bikram yoga, held the pose for a full minute, so that's at least 5 breaths, sometimes more, and pause and rest. And then you would rest after the pose. If you were in standing, you would pause and just stand still for at least 20 seconds. Or if you were doing the seated poses, you would actually lie down in Shavasana, corpse pose, after the pose. As I put here, I used to do a lot of Bikram yoga back in the day. What does this do for your etheric body, for this first level of your energy field? Yeah, it doesn't actually look like this, but I tried. It gives you a strong flush of energy along the blue lines of light that pushes against your blocks. Because when energy gets blocked on this level of your field, there's a few different ways the beautiful blue lines can distort. So the lines can become thickened, almost like you've got clogs in your pipes, right? You can get sort of thickened, clogged up energy. So the energy is not flowing along that area of the body. When this happens, you're probably going to feel stiff. You're probably going to feel like you don't have a lot of movement. You're going to feel like buildup and discomfort in that area. The other way the lines can be damaged on this level, pardon me, put cream in my coffee this morning, is they can be broken. So when you have an injury or a trauma, the lines can actually get broken, and then you're going to feel pain or weakness in that area. The lines can get tangled, right? Instead of flowing smoothly, there's kind of like a knotty area. Those are adhesions that will show up in the connective tissue in your body or the muscle tissue, which is surrounded by also layers of connective tissue or fascia. And it'll just feel like, you know, that tense feeling like you just can't stretch it out, or it feels like there's scar tissue. It feels gnarly, right? When you massage yourself, it just feels like it's like there's a lot of like knotty kind of tissue, gnarly kind of tissue in there that you want your massage therapist to kind of smooth out and get those fibers realigned, which is also to realign the blue lines. And the lines can also be just weak. You know, they might not be broken, but they just might not be a lot of energy flow in a certain area. That usually happens because you've numbed out of a certain area, or maybe it's just underuse. You don't use that part of your body, so you're not sending energy consciousness through those lines, and they become weak and undercharged. Okay, so if you're in a yoga pose and you're actually holding it, you're holding a stretch or an exertion in a muscle, but you're going to stay in it at least 5 breaths, at least 1 minute, and breathe. What you're doing is you're holding the blue lines in a certain kind of configuration of stretch or exertion, and you're breathing prana through those lines with your breath. So it's like you're giving a steady sending of energy through those lines. And if there's a blockage in the lines, it's like you're going to kind of build up some energy against it to push the blockage out of the dams, right? Push the clogging out of the pipes. And then when you release the pose, right? So after you've done that, and you've breathed, and you release it, it's like, and if you rest, now it's like you're resting the lines, and now the energy can flush through and actually clear out and open up the area. Okay? This is classical yogis knew this. This is why they designed the practice to hold the pose at least 5 breaths, often much longer, right? And just on a simple connective tissue level, you need to give your body some time to work with the stretch, right? You need to give your body some time to respond to the demand, breathe, and actually start to change the tissue composition a little bit. Yes, this is my rant. Modern jump and pump yoga that does not hold poses for very long charges your field, but only very shallowly, right? Any kind of exercise we do, any kind of exertion, moving, breathing our body is going to charge this level of the field. But what I don't like about the direction and the trend that yoga has taken, where, Ashtanga yoga was the original vinyasa yoga where you flowed from one pose to another, but you still always held every pose for 5 breaths. You'd flow into a pose and you'd hold it for 5 breaths. You'd flow into the next pose and you'd hold it for 5 breaths. And onward, right? So it was strong and powerful and it flowed, but you still held the poses. The evolution of what's happened with this sort of flow yoga is I see so many teachers that they're barely holding the poses for 1 breath. Can I be frank? It really pisses me off. Pisses me off because I'm 53 and my body doesn't move that fast anymore. It pisses me off because there's a lot of repeating the same poses. So, it's like that's inefficient, right? I'd rather do a broad spectrum of poses that reach into every part of my body than continually reworking the same pose and touching the same areas of my body. And it's not long enough to create tissue change in the body. So it will charge up your field. It will give you a good workout. It will also encourage that hyper restless energy that we have too much of in our culture already. Movement without pause or stillness, movement without time to actually take in what you're doing. And it gives you a shallow charge in your energy field, but it does not give you that deep charge and that potential of actually really deeply transforming clogging in the pipes in your etheric body, or really deepening the energy charge and deepening the immersion into your etheric body as you practice. That's what I had to say today. I had to have a little rant about yoga. And that's okay. I mean, if you love yoga that's fast moving and this is your form of exercise and you love it, you're moving your body and that's great. But I would suggest try a slower moving class and then play with this. Play with feeling what is actually happening when you hold a pose steady and you breathe into it, what's happening in your tissues. If you want to even imagine and visualize the blue gridwork of lines in your etheric body, play with that while you practice yoga. And just imagine what's happening as you continually breathe and move charge, direct it through different areas with your mind and your attention. Okay, that's all fun to talk about it. Let us practice for a moment, at least drop into our body for a bit, because it's no fun to just talk and not feel. So drop in with me here, at least for a few minutes. pour yourself into your body. Just begin to shift your attention off of me, off of the screen. Just bring your awareness of sensation into your body. My body's all charged up because I was ranting. Got that charge of passionate anger. What are you feeling? What sensations are you aware of right now? If you drop into your body and there's a lot of pain, first I'm so sorry about that. I know it's just so challenging to be in a physical body and to want to even be immersed down in this level of your field when what you feel is pain. And if you want some beginning ways to work with that pain, to begin to shift it, I would love to invite you to my Intro to Energy Healing and Trauma Clearing workshop. I'll link it in the video description, and you can find it on my website under Work With Me, shelleyharrison.ca. So let's go to an area that feels some discomfort, maybe pain. And if it's intense pain, just hover around the edges of it. Just let your awareness kind of just touch the edge of it. Don't plunge right into the most intense sensations. So for me, I'm in my neck. I did have a massage on Saturday, so I'm noticing that the kind of habitual sensations I feel there are not as intense as usual. Massage and other forms of body work do affect this level of your aura. Not because the body worker is necessarily doing energy work on you, but because working with the physical body, the etheric body is it's basically the matrix upon which your physical body forms. So it's so closely related to the body that when you work with the physical body, it can also release the energy in the etheric body. Okay, so we're touching into this feeling of discomfort. I'm not going to go into a yoga pose, but I want you to breathe more deeply. So that could be, you know how you breathe in a yoga class where you're trying to take 4 counts to inhale, 4 counts to exhale. If you do different forms of power yoga, Ashtanga yoga, Vinyasa yoga, and you've been taught this more powerful breath that makes a rasping sound in your throat, it's called Ujjayi breathing. You can even go into that. But I want you to start to deepen your breathing and imagine you're sending that breath through the area of your body that has some discomfort. Almost like the breath becomes a comb or rivers of light, rivers of prana flowing through the area you're focusing on. You want to comb through that area with the breath. As you breathe more deeply, you're charging your whole energy field, your whole etheric body, and just see if you're able to change the sensation in that particular area a little bit. So it's the principle of breath work practices too, right? I'm speaking of breath work not just as deep breathing and prana work in yoga practice, but what's become very popular now too, different breath work classes where you're usually lying down using a particularly strong breathing technique for 20 minutes, half hour longer. And again, pushing breath through the body, washing breath through the body, pushing breath through the etheric body. And usually what happens when you do a breathwork class or practice or session with a breathwork practitioner, and I've done some, I quite love them, is that blocks, typically emotional blocks, will start to wake up and peel off and express. Why emotional blocks? Because I mean, you can't selectively charge, well, you can selectively charge one level of your field if you're really good at directing your consciousness, but as soon as you push energy through the field, the breath may be kind of charging your etheric body, but it's so closely related to the emotional body, which is the next level up, which we work on Tuesdays, is that it also gets blocked energy moving on that level. And the level up mental body clears your mind, clears your mental body. It can get things cascading and moving through all levels of the aura. So that is my little self-care tip for today. If you were going to go do a yoga class today, I want you to play with this and practice with this. When you're in a pose, especially if there's a pose that you get to hold for longer than 1 or 2 breaths, steady your breath, really shovel your breath through the area that you're working on in that pose, and consciously imagine you're flowing more energy along those lines, and then release. And hopefully if you get to release and pause for a moment and feel the flush of energy that then comes back through that area when you release and rest. Okay, have fun with that, and I hope to see you tomorrow when we go into the emotional body.